वृन्दे ते चरणारविन्दम् बिम्बार्हरोदीत्वरमन्दहास्यां नेशाग्रमुक्तां द्युतिदीपितस्ये विचित्ररत्नाभरणाश्रियास्ये वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम् समस्त वैकुण्ठाशिरोमणौ श्री कृष्णस्य वृन्दावनधन्यधामि दत्ताधिकारे वृषभानुपुत्र्या वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम् त्वदञ्जया पल्लवपुष्पवृन्दा मृगादिभिर्मां धवकेलिपूजा माध्वादिभिर्भवति विभूषमाना वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम् त्वदीयदूत्येनानि कुञ्जयूनो प्रत्युत्तयोगेली विलाससंयुति त्वत्सौभगं तेनानिरुच्यतं वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम् त्वं स्निग्धयास्ये सात्वता तन्त्रा विधिलीलाविधानाखिल कृष्णशक्ति तवैव मूर्ते तुलसी नृलोके वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम् भक्त्या विहीना अपराधलक्षये क्षिप्तश्च कामादितरङ्गमहत्ये कृपामयी त्वां शरणं प्रपन्ना वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम् वृन्दाष्टकं यः शृण्यत् पठेत् वृन्दावनाधीशपदाब्जभृङ्गा सप्राप्य वृन्दावननित्यवासं तत्प्रेमसेवं लभते कृतार्था वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम् वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम्। श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी की जय। श्री वृंद देवी की जय। Hare Krishna. So let us begin our session with our prayers. Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Satvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubheva Cha Patitanam Bhavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriya Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So I'm grateful to each and every one of you who have come today for this beautiful session on the 5 potent forms of devotional service. I consider it my very good fortune to be instrumental in sharing this beautiful message. My voice is low. Am I not audible? Now, how do I sound? Am I clear?
Audible, Mataji. Yes, Mataji. Hare
Yeah.
Krishna.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, so bhakti is the ultimate process. It is the culmination of all the yogic practices. So we all know that the goal and purpose of human life is to know Krishna and to approach Krishna. And how do we know Krishna? Krishna tells in Gita very clearly, Bhaktyanam Abhijanati. Only by bhakti you will get to know me. And how to approach Krishna? Man mana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Mam evashi satyam pratijani priyosmi. Krishna tells, always think of me, always remember me, offer your obeisances unto me, become my devotee. In this way you will come to me without fail. This is Krishna's promise. So bhakti is a word which appears so many times in the Gita. And in fact, Krishna mentions this. Whenever Krishna mentions about bhakti, oftentimes you find Krishna actually very excited. For example, the verse in the 9th chapter, 26th verse, Patram pushpam phalam toyam. Yeah. In that verse, bhakti is a word that comes twice. Yeah. Yomam bhakti prayachati, tadaham bhakti upahritam ashnami prayatmatmaya. Bhakti is a word that comes twice. Offer a leaf, patram pushpam phalam toyam. You offer a fruit, flower, leaf, or water, anything with devotion. And I accept it. This is the process that Krishna gives in Gita. So bhakti is, the Raja Vidya, the ultimate process of connecting to Krishna. So this bhakti is of 2 types. There is Bhava Rupa Bhakti and there is Cheshta Rupa Bhakti. Yeah, there is Cheshta and there is Bhava. What is this Cheshta Rupa Bhakti? Cheshta Rupa Bhakti is that devotional service that is performed with our senses. That is Cheshta Rupa Bhakti. And the other form of bhakti is Bhava Rupa Bhakti. That is the bhakti that is performed with our feelings or emotions. That is Bhava Rupa Bhakti. So both processes are equally important, Bhava Rupa and Cheshta Rupa. While the Cheshta Rupa Bhakti is like the body of bhakti, the Bhava Rupa is like the heart of devotion. That is why Krishna tells, worship me buddha bhava samanvita, with your intelligence and with your feelings. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, while he is instructing Srila Sanatana Goswami about the process of devotional service, he enlists 64 items of devotional service, 64 items altogether. So when he's enlisting all the 64 items, at the 35th item, he takes a kind of short break to give the essence of all these 64 items. And that is when Mahaprabhu begins to describe about these 5 potent forms of bhakti. And each of which actually, when one performs with faith, it has, as we read in the previous verses, that each in itself has the potency to awaken love for Krishna. So potent is each of these forms. So last week we have done about deity worship. So this week we will do something about Mathura-vāsa. What is Mathura-vāsa? So Mathura-vāsa is actually the process of staying in a dham. Actually, that is the definition of Mathurā-vāsa. Vāsa means to stay. Mathura means the holy land of Vrindavan or Mathura, where Lord Kṛṣṇa has appeared and performed pastimes. So what is the significance of Mathurā-vāsa or staying in a dham? The significance is that it helps one very naturally remember the glories and pastimes of the Lord. For example, any of you have visited Vrindavan. It's very effortless to actually remember Kṛṣṇa. It's very effortless to remember the holy places and be reminded of the worship of the Lord. You know, the whole atmosphere is as such surcharged with such intense devotion for Kṛṣṇa. In fact, if you walk on the roads of Vrindavan, you always find some bell ringing somewhere. You always hear the Harinam going on somewhere. You always hear the conch blowing somewhere. So it's like Vrindavan is a place of 5,000 temples. If you simply were circumambulate the entire Vrindavan, we have done the parikrama of 5,000 temples. In fact, every home is a temple in Vrindavan. And that culture is still so predominantly present today. So that is the advantage of staying in a dham. That is why it is considered one of the 5 potent forms, because the remembrance of the Lord becomes very natural and spontaneous. But we need to understand what is the essence. Staying in a dham implies it gives us the remembrance of the Lord. But if one might stay in the dham for purposes other than remembrance and worship of the Lord, there's a tendency to get carried away and even commit offenses. That is why Prabhupada says, if you visit Vrindavan, only visit for 3 days. After that, there's a tendency for the consciousness to fall below the, come back to their material propensity. So that is why if we visit dhams, it is highly recommended that we visit in the association of devotees, and that too guided by a great Vaishnava. And when it is best to see the dham by hearing from our spiritual master. That's the only way you can get to experience a dham. If not, it will merely be a kind of sightseeing. Yes. So that's the importance of visiting the holy places in the association of devotees and under the guidance of pure devotees. So as I said, the purpose of Mathurā-vāsa is remembrance of the Lord. So there is no point in staying in a dham and then, living like in a very mundane way and not taking advantage of it. On the other hand, the same dham can be experienced anywhere. When Srila Prabhupada was staying in a small flat in the room of New York, in that small flat where he was carrying out the mission of Lord Chaitanya, he said, this is Vrindavan for me, because this is where I'm serving my Guru Maharaj. This is where I'm serving the mission of my Guru Maharaj. So this is Vrindavan. At the same time, a person might be very much in Vrindavan. Prabhupada actually tells that people who are in Vrindavan, but who carry very lustful propensities, in their next life, they are born as monkeys in dhams. If you go to Vrindavan, you see a lot of monkeys, but don't offend them. They might be great devotees. In fact, even it is said that if you're seeing from high above, from the aerial space, if you see the dham of Vrindavan, even pigs are found to have a 4-handed form when you're seeing the aerial view, when you're seeing with the transcendental vision. So that is a potency of Vrindavan dham. We should not underestimate even the small creatures of Vrindavan. They're not ordinary. So what is important here is being in the consciousness of dham, or being in the mood of constant glorification of the Lord, where the service of the Lord is taking place. So that is why dham, if we are unable to stay in the dham, the scriptures state that wherever you are staying, plant Tulasi and worship her. And that wherever the worship of Tulasi Maharani is going on, that very place is equivalent to a holy dham. It is said in the Skanda Purana that on one leaf of Tulasi Maharani, all the holy places reside. That is the potency of even one leaf of Tulasi Maharani. So we all right now staying in the cities so far away from the dham, but yet by simply doing some small things, like last week I've spoken about setting up an altar at home and frequently offering worship in the form of incense, flowers, etc. You can create an ambience of a temple. And what more, if you're worshipping Tulasi Maharani, that's the most effective way to transform your entire home that you're living in into a temple, into a dham, in fact. So for us to be focused in our worship of Tulasi Maharani, it is very important to know what are her glories. Because unless we know about the glories, we do not know how to worship. So worship of Tulasi Maharani is something as Gaudiya Vaishnavas we come across on a daily basis. If you see, our day begins with worshipping Tulasi Maharani, by offering incense, lamp, and flowers, and we do Tulsi Parikrama. The whole day itself begins with worship of Tulsi. And we offer Tulsi leaves in every offering that we make to the Lord. We offer Tulsi manjaris at the lotus feet of the Lord. We offer Tulsi chandan to the lotus feet of the Lord. We observe something called Tulsi Shaligram Vivaha at the end of Kartik Mass. So on a daily basis, Tulsi Devi is a very important component of worshipping Lord Kṛṣṇa. So today let us understand what are the glories of worshipping the Lord with Tulsi. So I have some verses in the Bhagavatam which speak about these glories. Let me share them with you. Yeah, this is from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 3, verse 15, chapter 15, verse 19. Mandara kunda kurabotpala champakarna punnaga naga bakulambuja parijataha gandhe chite tulasika bharane latasya yasmin stapah sumanaso bahumanayanti. The translation says, all the flowering plants like the mandara, kunda, kurabaka, utpala, champaka, arna, punnaga, nāga-kēṣara, bakula, lily, and parijata are full of transcendental fragrance. They're still conscious of the austerities performed by Tulasi, for Tulasi is given special preference by the Lord, who garlands himself with Tulasi leaves. So what you're seeing here, all these are the most exotic flowers, so fragrant. Yeah, they made beautiful garlands and they're offered to the Lord. But all these beautiful flowers in their personification, they all know what is the position of Tulasi Maharani. Yeah, just by offering one Tulsi leaf to the Lord, the Lord is completely satisfied. He's so pleased. Yeah, and they all are not envious of Tulasi Maharani. This is spiritual world. In spiritual world, there is no envy. If somebody is in a very superior position of transcendence, of spiritual advancement, there is a great appreciation for that personality. They worship that personality and they take shelter of that personality, but they don't become envious of them. Yeah. Similarly, even amongst all the gopis, Srimati Radharani is the best. So when in the Rasa dance, when Lord Kṛṣṇa has left all the gopis, they all were saying, certainly Kṛṣṇa might be with that most beautiful gopi who has worshipped him with all his heart, with all her heart. So they were all in great appreciation of Srimati Radharani, but never was envious. So whenever there is envy, there is envy, no vacancy in spiritual world. So all these beautiful flowers, yeah, are very conscious of the position of Tulasi Maharani, that she is the dearmost to Lord Kṛṣṇa. Yeah. And there is another verse in the Bhagavatam which says, Salilai Shuchibhir Malyai Banyer Mula Phaladibhi Shastana Kumara Shukais Chache Tulasya Priyaya Prabhu. Translation: one should worship the Lord by offering pure water, pure flower garlands, fruits, flowers, and vegetables which are available in the forest, or by collecting newly grown grasses, small buds of flowers, or even skins of trees, and if possible, by offering tulasi leaves, which are very dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So again, it is stated in the Shastras that offering one leaf of tulasi is equivalent to worshipping Kṛṣṇa with all the flowers, all the vegetables, all the fruits, and the best possible of leaves, all of them put together, and all the holy rivers, all these put together to worship the Supreme Lord is equal to worshipping Kṛṣṇa with one tulsi leaf. That is the potency of Tulasi Maharani. Actually, in the translation, and the purport of this, there is a very a great significance to this particular verse. What is the significance? While Prabhupada is translating this verse, in this purport, Prabhupada mentions the name of one of his disciples, Govinda Dasi. So she is the only disciple of Srila Prabhupada whose name you would ever come across in the entire Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. And why Prabhupada is so pleased with her? It's because in the West, growing tulsi is very, very difficult. It's a totally different climate, extreme cold. The temperature, the humidity, and all those conditions are not conducive for the growth of Tulasi Maharani. But here's one devotee, Govinda Dasi, who is a dear disciple of Srila Prabhupada, who has actually taken a lot of efforts, care, and concern to delicately actually start growing Tulasi Maharani. So much so that it has, within no time, has manifested into a big vana. And when Prabhupada went to see that center in the US, he was so pleased and he profusely blessed Govinda Dasi. and Prabhupada was so pleased that Prabhupada actually mentions her name in this purport of Bhagavatam. Yeah, if you see, you can see in the fourth line. In the Western countries, while engaged in propagating the Krishna consciousness movement, we were brought great unhappiness because we could not find tulsi leaves. Therefore, we are very much obliged to our disciple Srimati Govinda Dasi because she has taken much care to grow tulsi plants from seeds. And she has been successful by the grace of Krishna. So this is how Prabhupada has been so pleased by the service of Govinda Dasi. Govinda Mataji has actually written about her in the pages of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. So they are eternalized. Her service is glorified, eternalized, and it has pleased her spiritual master. What more? I feel this is the very success of life. You can't expect anything beyond. So that is how, growing tulsi leaves, growing tulsi is so dear to the Lord. And because it pleased Kṛṣṇa so much, it pleased Prabhupada so much. And when the Guru is pleased, Kṛṣṇa is pleased. Yeah, so that's the position of glory of growing tulsi and offering tulsi leaves at the lotus feet of the Lord. And it is said in Bhagavatam that also the supreme goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Devi, she herself is sometimes envious of the position of Tulasi Maharani. Yeah, because she's always present at the lotus feet of the Lord and her position is so fixed. On the other hand, Lakshmi Devi's position is that she's very chanchala, she's always moving, she's not stable. Yeah. So although Lakshmi ji is stationed on the chest of the Lord, she has to please other devotees and give her and, kind of answer their prayers and do favors for them. But Tulasi Maharani's entire absorption is always to please the Supreme Lord. So that is why Goddess Lakshmi is also envious of the position of Tulasi Devi. Yeah, so this is one last verse. This is a verse that comes about, that talks about what was the effect of the fragrance that is emanated from the lotus feet of the Lord, when which is carrying the aroma of tulsi. And when this aroma has touched the nostrils of the Brahma Kumaras, what effect it had on them. Tasyaravinda-nayanasya padaravinda kinjalkamishra tulasi makarandavayini antargata svavivarena chakaratesham sanshobhamaksharajusham api chittatanvoh. So in this, the translation says, when the breeze carrying the aroma of tulsi leaves from the toes of the lotus feet of personality of Godhead entered the nostrils of those sages, they experienced change both in body and in mind, even though they were attached to the impersonal Brahman understanding. So until then, the Chatush Kumaras, Sanak, Sanatan, Sanandan, and Sanat Kumar, the four sons of Lord Brahma, who were always situated in the transcendence of Brahman effulgence. So they, until then, they were thinking that's the highest state of being, that is to merge into the, to be in the impersonal understanding of the Supreme Lord. But when they were traveling towards Vaikuntha, this fragrance of Tulasi Makaranda, the Tulsi, the fragrance of Tulasi that has come about from the lotus feet of the Lord, it touched the nostrils. And when that fragrance touched the nostrils of this Chatush Kumaras, immediately they understood the glory of devotional service. And they have realized that is the ultimate. So even those situated in that impersonal Brahman understanding have turned towards the bhakti, the process of bhakti, by being affected by the fragrance of Tulasi Makaranda that came from the lotus feet of the Lord. So all glories to the lotus feet of the Lord, all glories to the devotional service, and all glories to Tulasi Maharani. That's the beauty of the process of bhakti. So bhakti is such a nectarian and divine process. It is so beautiful. That is why Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu Nityananda Prabhu called it Kevala Ananda Kanda, Parama Karuna Pahudui Jana, Nitai Gaura Chandra, Tavayava Avtara, Tara Shiromani, Kevala Ananda Kanda. This whole process that has been given, the process of bhakti, it's just, there are no austerities as such that we do in this. For example, these 5 potent forms of bhakti, each process itself is so beautiful, it's so fulfilling to the heart, and it is so joyously performed. Yeah, if actually the worship of Tulasi Maharani is something that is so natural. If you see any Indian home, any traditional Indian home, what does it consist of? Any traditional Indian home you go, in the courtyard, you see a nice place for Tulasi Maharani, and every day, very devotedly, the women of the house with a beautiful, bindi, they come and they water Tulsi Maharani, they offer incense, flowers, and deepak. Yeah, every morning and evening. I still see my mother used to do that. My mother-in-law does that. Any traditional woman at home, they offered a ghee lamp or any kind of lamp to Tulsi Rani every evening, especially. So it's so ingrained, worship of Tulsi is so ingrained in the culture of India. Yeah. So, but also along with being it being a cultural process, one should also understand the philosophy behind. That makes the whole culture transmissible to the next generations. If not the next generation, they don't understand what is the significance of offering a diya to the Tulsi. They just give it up. They don't do it anymore. If you see more and more people who are, especially in the apartment culture, flats, there's hardly any place present. And then nobody bothers also to have a Tulsi pot at home and then offer diyas. Some do it really religiously and consciously, but some don't do it. They start giving it up. So that is why, along with culture, it is very important to understand the philosophy. When both of them go together hand in hand, one performs the act with faith and devotion, and one will very convincingly hand it over to the next generation. That is why philosophy and culture both are equally important. So as I said, these are the glories of Tulasi Maharani as we see in the verses of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. In fact, actually, the glories of worshipping Tulasi Rani so many times enunciated in the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita through many pastimes. Recently, we have celebrated this glorious, auspicious appearance day of Advaitacharya. So Advaitacharya, he is the incarnation of Mahavishnu and Lord Shiva together. So he has descended at a beautiful place called Shantipur, which is few kilometers away from Mayapur or Navadvip. So when Advaitacharya appeared, this was much before the appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. So every day he has foreseen the pitiful condition of the people of Kali Yuga. And he felt that there is no hope for these people of Kali. Yeah, they're so much in such a pathetic situation. Who can save them? Only the Lord has to descend to uplift them from this most miserable condition. So with this unlimited compassion, every day he used to worship Shila, a Shaligram Shila. Recently I've shared that Shaligram Shila in one of our groups actually. It's a Nrsimha Shila. So he used to worship this Nrsimha Shila every day. And how he used to worship? He used to worship the Nrsimha Shila with the water of Ganges and by offering Tulsi leaves. Every day he used to offer Tulsi leaves to this Nrsimha Shila and offer water and offer profuse prayers, begging the Lord to please descend and uplift the people of the age of Kali. So being pleased, the Lord then descended as the Yuga Avatar Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is the glory and beauty of worshipping the Lord with Tulsi leaves. The Lord becomes so pleased that he answers every prayer of yours. And later we also see in the life of Srila Haridas Chakra. And by the way, Haridas Chakra is Lord Brahma himself. But so there is a pastime actually that he was cursed by his father to be born in a Shudra family. Why? Because he was offering Tulsi leaves to the Lord without washing them. So all of you be careful whenever we are offering Tulsi to the Lord, please wash them nicely before you offer. Okay, so this is Haridas Thakur. And so we all know this pastime that when the local Muslim rulers, they all did not like that Srila Haridas Thakur, who was born in a Muslim family, is incessantly chanting the names of Kṛṣṇa, Hari. So to distract him from his tapasya, to distract him from his position of chanting the names continuously, they send a beautiful prostitute to him to distract him away. So when this prostitute goes to Haridas Thakur, she stays, and for almost 3 days, every day she comes and she stays, and he says that, because he was chanting deep in the jungle, there was nobody around. So this lady used to come and she used to look at Srila Haridas Thakur, and Haridas Thakur said that I have not completed my rounds for the day today. Please wait, and then I will fulfill your desire. So this prostitute used to wait for him. And in the process, she used to be hearing his chanting. So in that way, 1 day passed, 2 days passed, and 3 days passed, and she was only hearing his Harinam. And simply by hearing the holy name from Haridas Thakur, her heart got so transformed. She came with such a malintention of actually distracting him away and make him yield to her lustful desires. But what happened? By hearing, by the effect of holy name, her whole heart got transformed. And she gave up the thought. And on the 3rd day, she herself goes to Haridas Thakur and confesses, my dear sir, please forgive me. I have come to you with a very malintention because I was sent by these people who wanted to distract you from your practices. And Haridas Thakur says that I know why you are here. But nonetheless, I forgive you. And you're here hearing the holy name for so many days. So my only instruction, and she says that I surrender to your lotus feet and I will do whatever you say. Please accept me as your disciple. So at that time, actually, Haridas Thakur accepts her, even marries her, and gives her Harinam Diksha and tells her to chant 300,000 of holy names every day. That is 3 lakhs. That is how many rounds? 192 rounds. And what's the next instruction he gives? Just stay here, chant 192 rounds every day, and worship Tulasi Maharani. Nirantara. Chant incessantly and worship Tulasi Maharani. This is a common instruction that you always see in different scenarios. I will tell you 2 more scenarios after this. So she accepts the instruction that Srila Haridas Thakur gives. And 3 months continuously, every day, 192 rounds. How many rounds are we trying to chant? 16. And that too with so much struggle. Yeah, but here is, the prostitute, so-called prostitute. She was so elevated that, she continuously started chanting and chanting and chanting 192 rounds a day, and constantly worshipping Tulasi Maharani, circumambulating Tulasi Maharani, offering water to Tulasi Maharani, sitting at the shade of Tulasi Maharani, and then chanting continuously. As a result, actually, after 3 months, the whole place became so potent that people from all over the village, they came to visit. It became like a dham. This is what I was telling about Mathura-vāsa. The whole place became a dham. And actually, by that time, Haridas Chakra leaves the place and goes away. But he continuously gets absorbed in chanting of the holy names and worshipping Tulasi Maharani. And from that day onwards, an instruction is passed on in the entire village that nobody is ever going to call her a prostitute ever again. And she remains worshipable. And she's now called Haridasi. Haridasi for 2 reasons. Why? She is both one whose life is touched by Srila Haridas Chakra, or she is the devotee or the servant of Lord Sri Hari. So that is the glory of chanting the holy name and serving Tulasi Maharani. And as I said, the whole place has become a dham. Similarly, we also see the effect of, watering Tulsi Rani and serving Tulasi Maharani in again another pastime. There's a pastime of Mrigari, Mrigari the hunter. So Mrigari was such a sadistic hunter. So sadistic that, he used to half kill animals and seeing them, die. He used to receive some kind of a pleasure out of it. So one day, when Narada Muni was passing by the jungle, he saw a few animals lying half dead and, grappling for life. And he saw one animal at one place, and after going ahead a little more, he saw another animal. And after that, he saw another animal, all innocent animals. They're half killed and they were just grappling for life. And after going ahead, he was thinking, who is this person who's half killing them? Had he killed them completely, at least they would have died. Now they're in such a pathetic condition. Who is this person doing? So he went ahead and there he saw Mrigari, again half killing animals and taking pleasure out of it. So Narada Muni took compassion on him. And he goes to him and he speaks to him. What do you know what you're doing? And he preaches to him about what repercussions are awaiting for doing acts like this. And Narada Muni asks him, why are you doing this? He says that this is my vritti. And, I have to feed my wife and children. Then Narada Muni says, you're doing this for the pleasure of your wife and children. Just go and ask them if they can partake of your sinful reactions that you're going to get out of killing these animals. So he actually goes and finds out, and they say, no, of course not. So he understands the naked reality of material existence. Everybody has to bear their own karmic quotas. So then he realizes, and then he understands the gravity of Narada Muni's instructions. So at that time again, Narada Muni tells the same instruction. Nirantara, constantly chant the holy name of the Lord and worship Tulasi Maharani. So where he was, he simply plants Tulasi Maharani, and in the shade of Tulasi Maharani, he continuously starts chanting the holy name of Kṛṣṇa. And we all know what the result is. Now, after some time, Narada Muni, along with his friend Parvata Muni, both of them come together to see his disciple, how he's doing. The Guru always is eager to know what the status of his disciple, how he's following the instructions that have been given to him. After a long time, then Narada Muni visited again Mrigari. So he comes with Parvata Muni, and Parvata Muni sees that Mrigari was walking towards them, but while walking towards them, he was just hopping here and there and walking in a very crooked way. So Parvata Muni asked, what happened? Why are you walking that way? So Mrigari tells. So here are a line of black ants, and I didn't want to trouble them or hurt them by trampling upon them. So that is why when I was walking towards you, I was ensuring that they don't get crushed under my feet. So when he said that, Narada Muni was so pleased. See the effect of the holy name. Transform Mrigari to the extent that one who was deriving such sadistic pleasure out of killing animals half and seeing them struggle for life, now he cannot hurt even a small black ant that's moving on the ground. So this is how chanting of the holy names can melt and transform a person. And this whole process of chanting gets completely amplified. The results get completely amplified when it is done with service. And what is the rest of the service? Offering service to Tulasi Maharani. This is, in fact, it is exemplified by Srimati Radharani herself through a beautiful pastime, which I will just share later. It comes in the Garga Samhita. So service and chanting, they should go hand in hand. When they go hand in hand, it produces amplified results. So, so this is how we see how potent is worshipping of Tulasi Maharani. And we also see this in the pastime of Jagai and Madai. Just yesterday, we have celebrated Nityananda Trayodashi. So I'm sure if you have heard the lecture, you've heard the narration of the pastime of Jagai and Madai. They are such demoniac people. And there was, in all the, it is said that the kind and number of sins that Jagai and Madai have performed, it is, there is nowhere in the scripture a mention of a sin other than the sin that has been committed by Jagai and Madai. That means they've covered all the sins possible by a human being. Killing of Brahmanas, offending of Vaishnavas, raping women, whatnot, you name it, they have done it. There is so much so the Chitragupta, they could not keep track of the number of sins that Jagai and Madai are performing. That means they have outperformed their own, the pace of Chitragupta. They had to simultaneously maintain 3 departments to maintain the accounts of the sins of Jagai and Madai. 3 departments. What are the 3 departments? Manasa, Vacha, Karmana. That is through thoughts, words, and deeds. Whatever sins you're performing, they are noted down by Chitragupta. So there was a separate department for thoughts, department for words, and separate department for actions. So these 3 departments are simultaneously working on keeping a track of the number of sins Jagai and Madai are performing, and they're failing. They have given up. Actually, in a meeting, they express their inability to keep a track of their sins. That's the number of sins they're performing. That was Jagai and Madai. So, so Nityananda Prabhu, yesterday we were hearing the lecture, he was so eager to glorify the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. So he felt that if Jagai and Madai can be delivered, then the glory of the mercy of Lord Chaitanya will be spread far and wide. So this is Nityananda Prabhu. He is the hope for the hopeless. The more fallen we are, the more we are eligible for the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu. Yeah, Nityananda Prabhu's mercy flows downwards. That is, the lower we are here, the fastest the mercy reaches. Nityananda Prabhu ki jai. So Nityananda Prabhu, eager to deliver both of them, he comes and preaches about the glory of bhakti and tells them to chant the holy names of Kṛṣṇa. So when Nityananda Prabhu first preached to them, they got offended. We are, big time sinners. We are big time offenders. And he's coming and telling us to chant the holy names of the Lord. What does he think of us? They got so angry. They got so furious that they started chasing Nityananda Prabhu and Haridas Chakra to actually hit them, to actually kill them. This is the extent of their sinful propensities. So at that time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes, and it's only one time that he takes his Sudarshan Chakra, because Jagai and Madai actually hits Nityananda Prabhu on his head to break with a pot. So Mahaprabhu could not take it. So he takes his chakra to punish them. But later Nityananda Prabhu begs at the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu to please give forgiveness to this Jagai and Madai. So upon Nityananda Prabhu begging, Mahaprabhu forgives. And first he gives love of God to Jagai, but Madai was not given. Why? Because Madai has offended by hitting Nityananda Prabhu. So he says, then Mahaprabhu hugs Jagai. Immediately he gets transformed and starts shedding tears of love. The Madai says, "Arey, no, we whatever sins and atrocities we both performed together, how is it that now you delivered Jagai and you have left me?" Then Mahaprabhu said, because you have offended Nityananda Prabhu. So he falls at the feet of Nityananda Prabhu and asks for forgiveness. So Nityananda Prabhu forgives and he especially begs mercy for Madai. So at that time, Mahaprabhu, again, here is where Tulasi Maharani comes into picture. And Nityananda Prabhu says, offer one Tulsi in the lotus palms of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So when they offer one Tulsi in the lotus palms of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then Mahaprabhu forgives Jagai and Madai and he embraces them. And when he embraced Madai, his beautiful golden complexion became black, totally black, absorbing all his sins. That's how much of sins they've performed. Absorbing all their sins, Mahaprabhu has become totally black. At that time, Advaita Acharya was present. So he was telling that here is Lord Kṛṣṇa. Mahaprabhu has become, has taken his Shyam Sundar form. So at that time, the Jagai and Madai get completely transformed. And they say that, oh, please forgive us for the number of sins that we have committed. So at that time, Nityananda Prabhu instructs, again, Nirantara, constantly chant the holy names of God, Kṛṣṇa, and all your sins will be forgiven. And serve the Vaishnavas. Whoever is coming to the holy dham, to Ganga, to take bath, serve them. And in this way, they follow the instruction and they worship Tulasi Maharani, they chant the holy names of Kṛṣṇa, and they serve the Vaishnavas. And ever since then, their heart was so completely transformed. So much so that later on, they were named as Jagadananda Brahmachari and Madhavananda Brahmachari. Imagine Jagai and Madai have become brahmacharis. This is the effect of holy name. This is the effect of offering Tulsi in the palms of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Tulasi Maharani ki jai. So in this way, we see that many pastimes, actually, if you see again in the pastime of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, when Mahaprabhu used to worship a Govardhan Shila, a Govardhan Shila every time. So how Mahaprabhu worshipped this Govardhan Shila? He used to simply hang it in his neck, and whenever he used to see the Shila in separation, he used to cry profuse tears and bathe that Shila with the tears of his love. That was the standard of Mahaprabhu's deity worship. Abhishek with your tears of his love. So later he was very fond of his disciple, Raghunath Das Goswami, that he gifts this Govardhan Shila to Raghunath Das Goswami. So when Raghunath Das Goswami asks, I am so unqualified, how may I worship this Shila? Yeah, it's very, the worship of Govardhan Shila is very, very, very rare. Not anybody and everybody is qualified to do it. In fact, the scriptures state that one can worship the Shila only when either your own spiritual master comes and gives you the Shila to you, or a Brajvasi hands over that Shila to you. That's it. No other way. You cannot simply just go and take a Govardhan Shila from Giriraj, come and worship. No, it's not possible. That is why you might see many deities of Radha Krishna, but Govardhan Shila is not present everywhere. It takes special qualification, special mercy of the spiritual master. So Raghunath Das Goswami was given this Govardhan Shila by Mahaprabhu. When he begged to be taught, to be instructed as to how he may worship the Govardhan Shila, Mahaprabhu just tells two things. Yeah. Every day, offer 8 Tulsi Manjaris to this Govardhan Shila. 8. And surround those Tulsi Manjaris with beautiful flowers. That's it. This is the way to worship Govardhan Shila, the highest form of worship. How? By offering Tulsi Manjaris. So this is how the position of Tulasi Maharani is glorified in innumerable ways, in innumerable places, starting from the Gita. In Gita, in the purport to Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam, Prabhupada explains that offer Tulsi leaves to Kṛṣṇa. Yeah? And in many places in Bhagavatam, the position of Tulasi Maharani is glorified. What is the position of Tulasi Maharani? What is the effect it has? And in many Puranas, Skanda Purana and Samhitas like Garga Samhita, in Padma Purana, and in conversations like when Kartikeya approaches Lord Shiva to begging him to make him understand what is the highest way of worshipping the Lord, Lord Shiva tells the highest way and the easiest way to please Lord is to worship him with the leaves of Tulasi Maharani. And Lord Shiva tells that the glories of Tulasi Maharani are endless, endless. Yeah, in this way, the position of Tulasi Maharani has been glorified in so many scriptures. And in our own Bhagavad Gita, in Bhagavatam, and in Chaitanya Charitamrita, in many instances, the position of Tulasi Maharani is revealed and glorified. And I will just finally end with one pastime, and I think I will show you the slide of that. Okay, I will show later. This is the last pastime. So this comes in the Garga Samhita, which I said. So this is the pastime of Srimati Radharani herself. Yeah, and Srimati Radharani actually approaches one of her very good friends. Her name is Chandranana, and asks her, "My dear friend, what is the most easiest way to attain Lord Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa's association?" So Srimati Radharani is Hladini Shakti herself, and Kṛṣṇa is always in her captivity. But still she asks this question because she wants to tell all of us. So Chandranana answers Srimati Radharani, "Oh, my dear Radharani, listen from me the easiest way to attain Kṛṣṇa." And she says, just worship Tulasi Maharani. Just worship Tulasi Maharani constantly and faithfully. And by this way, you can easily attain Lord Kṛṣṇa. And I will tell you the exact details what she says. I didn't want to miss any of those details. That is why I have put it in the PowerPoint. Yeah. So this is there in the 16th, second canto and 16th chapter of the Garga Samhita. So this is what Chandranana said to Radharani. So there are 8 things that she tells. You should always gaze on Tulasi, touch her, remember her, glorify her, bow down before her, offer prayers to her, plant her and worship her. Then she will grant your desire. Okay, so she says, service to Tulasi gives the greatest piety, the greatest good fortune, and the greatest benediction, and it gives Lord Kṛṣṇa's association. And what are the 8 things that you have to do? These are the 8 things she says. And she goes on telling many, many glories, saying that, they who day after day serve Tulasi in these 9 ways attain the result of pious deeds performed in many thousands of millions of yugas. In fact, it is said, if you just plant a Tulasi plant, and as many as branches that come out of such a Tulasi plant, so many ancestors of yours get delivered. That is the potency of planting one Tulasi plant. Yeah, by offering Lord Kṛṣṇa single Tulasi leaf, one attains the result of offering him every flower and every leaf that exists. And a person who with offerings of Tulasi leaves worships Kṛṣṇa is not touched by sin as a lotus leaf is not touched by water. And by protecting a Tulasi forest, one attains the result of giving a pious charity of 100 bharas of gold or 400 bharas of silver. In this way, it's innumerable. In the midst of a Tulsi forest is a sacred pilgrimage. Yamaraja's servant will never enter that home. So wherever Tulsi is worshipped, into that home, Yamaraja is not. Not only Yamaraja, the Yamadutas also cannot enter. This is the glory of worshipping Tulsi Rani. That is why we always wear Tulsi neck beads, because simply by having this, the Yamadutas can never touch a person. Yeah, in this way, there are many, glories of Tulasi Maharani. Yeah. So yeah, as I said, sin does not touch the body of a sinner anointed with Tulsi paste. Wherever is the beautiful shade of a Tulsi forest, there's a Śraddha should be offered. And even Brahma cannot describe all the glories of Lord Kṛṣṇa, who holds the Saranga, so he cannot describe all the glories of Tulsi. Yeah, so in this way, the glories of Tulasi Maharani have been extolled upon by Chandranana to Srimati Radharani. So worship Tulasi Maharani in these 8 ways, and you will attain all good fortune. So Srimati Radharani actually does that for 6 months. She makes a beautiful place for the worship of Tulasi Maharani, and for 6 months continuously she offers great worship with such great devotion. She in fact builds a huge, beautiful palace to ensure the worship. And at the end of the 6 months, she gives a great feast to all the Brahmanas. And so many details are given as to how she has performed this vrata for 6 months. At the end of the 6 months, Tulasi Maharani actually appears in her 4-handed form, in her beautiful form. And then she tells Srimati Radharani, my dear Radharani, she embraces Radharani. So she says, you're the Hladini potency yourself, but you have performed this vrata just to show by your example for all the humans to follow. Please tell me, what may I do? So Srimati Radharani asks that I only pray to you that I be given the association of Kṛṣṇa constantly, that I be given the love for Kṛṣṇa. So Tulasi Maharani blesses profusely and she says, so be it, so be it, so be it. And I am so pleased with what all worship you have performed. So in that way, Srimati Radharani attains the highest benediction of constant association of Kṛṣṇa. And how? By worshipping Tulasi Maharani. So Srimati Radharani herself, who is the internal potency of the Lord, the greatest devotee of Kṛṣṇa. So she is showing by example how to attract the mercy of Kṛṣṇa. That is by constantly worshipping Tulasi Maharani. So these are the endless glories of Tulasi Maharani. And I will just end the session by showing you the 8 names of Tulasi Maharani which can be chanted. Yeah. So there are 8 names of Vrinda Devi, Tulasi Maharani. And each of these names is so full of meaning and so full of potency. So what are these names? Different 8 names of Tulasi Maharani. Vrindavani. What is Vrindavani? One who first manifested in Vrindavan. So the whole abode of Kṛṣṇa and Srimati Radharani is named after Vrinda Devi, Tulasi Maharani. Yeah. So her name is Vrindavani. Vrinda, the goddess of all plants. Vishva Pujita, one who the whole universe worships. Pushpasara, the topmost of all flowers. It's Pushpasara, without whom Kṛṣṇa does not like to look upon other flowers. There's Nandini, she gives happiness to everyone. Kṛṣṇa Jivani, such a beautiful name. Yeah? She's the life and soul of Lord Kṛṣṇa. Vishva Pavani, one who purifies the 3 worlds. And Tulasi, one who has no comparison. That is actually the meaning of the name Tulasi. Tula means, weighing. Tulasi, Asi means no comparison. Nothing can weigh. Just like when in the whole pastime of Rukmini Satyabhama, no amount of gold could outweigh Kṛṣṇa. But when a single leaf of Tulsi was placed on the other balance, on the other side of balance, immediately Kṛṣṇa outweighed. The Kṛṣṇa became very light and Tulsi leaf went down. So Tulsi depicts devotion. So Tulsi depicts what pleases Kṛṣṇa the most. So bhakti means offering Tulsi to the lotus feet of Kṛṣṇa. And even amongst, it is said Offering one tulsi leaf is equal to offering millions and millions of fragrant flowers and fruits to Kṛṣṇa. And offering one tulsi manjari, so potent, especially on the day of Ekadashi. Offering one tulsi manjari is equal to offering many, many, many millions of tulsi leaves to Kṛṣṇa. So tulsi manjari is very dear to the Lord. And especially when it is offered during Ekadashi, it has all the more potency. So if a tulsi manjari is growing around you, just wait until Ekadashi, take it and offer it to the Lord. and you will just see, it does not require any logic, simply just with faith. That's why bhakti is called something, faith in something sublime. Just have faith, and with that faith and devotion, offer that which pleases Kṛṣṇa so much. And what pleases Kṛṣṇa so much? Tulasi Maharani. So in this way, if this sharing of this session could help you develop some understanding and appreciation about the glories of Tulsi Rani, I would consider it my good fortune. And I really wish and pray that wherever you are, be it in your own college, and my own friend, my junior at college in Usmania, after I passed out of Usmania, she used to stay in a hostel. And in the hostel that she was staying, she used to grow so many tulsi plants. And she used to offer those tulsi leaves and manjaris to the small pictures that that she has placed in her own room. So bhakti is that there is no restriction of time and place. It can be performed anywhere. And it is such a potent way of performing. And that girl who has done this regularly, she's right now living in Vrindavan. She got married to a very nice person, and she stays in Vrindavan right now. So I'm just able to recollect the simple process, simple act of bhakti, so simple, can be performed anywhere. Even in a hostel, as I just said, this is an example. She's my junior, and this is what she did on a regular basis. She's been blessed so profusely. So I hope this class has helped you in some way in that direction. Thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anybody has any question?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dhanvat Pranam. One question. Mataji, you said if we offer Tulasi Manjari on Ekadashi day, like it pleases Lord and Chapi, but we asala Ekadashi roju we shouldn't pluck tulsi leaves kada Mataji.
Yeah, we should not pluck tulsi leaves from the evening of Ekadashi to the morning of Dvadashi. Ekadashi morning is fine. We can pluck on Ekadashi.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you.
Yeah, Dvadashi morning we should not pluck. And Ekadashi evening also. So early morning of Ekadashi is absolutely fine.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you. That's it.
Okay. Any other? Okay, so let us conclude here. If you have any questions, you can post them in the group, and I will try to post whatever I can. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you for the class, Mataji. Hare Krishna then.
Thank you, Aarti. So happy to have you here. Thank you all so much.
Thank you for the wonderful class, Mataji. You gave so many precious, wonderful examples. I've taken a notes also, Mataji. It's very, I'm happy that I was there in this class. I could learn something. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you for blessing. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Srijana. That was a nice feedback.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Dandavat Pranam. Thank you so much, Mataji, for this wonderful class.
Hari Bol. See, the process of bhakti touches, ladies so much, because devotion is so natural to, Vaishnavis. So that's why I've chosen the topic of 5 quoted forms of devotional service. I mean, each of this process is really indeed so beautiful. The process of bhakti is such an amazing thing. Just to have worship the deities at home and, offer tulsi, and just read Bhagavatam, associate with devotees, and chant Japa. And it's such a beautiful life it is. It's really Keval Anandakanda. And yesterday I went to our farm. I mean, we just, I'll stop the recording and share with you just a second.